Welcome to More Than a Few Words, a marketing conversation. And this is your host, Lorraine Ball. And I have one of my favorite guests back in the chair with me today. Deanna Russo started her leverage up to pass on her knowledge of LinkedIn after growing her network independently from 400 to 30,000. So she's done some marketing right. But today, we're not talking about marketing right. We're talking about what went wrong. Deanna, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to have you back. I love chatting with you. But today I'm going to ask you the hard question.
Yep.
What went wrong?
I started a group, a leverage up group community. And at first, I combined it with my coaching. So if you had become a one-on-one coaching client, then you became part of the community. And then someone suggested, well, what if you just created it as a separate identity? So then I created the community separately. And then finally, I just noticed more and more people seem to be coming to me for the one-on-one coaching, and the community didn't seem to be growing. And so I dissolved it. It was not something that I look back on like, well, what could have been, but it just didn't make any sense to have a community with a very small number of people.
So what were the challenges of trying to keep that community alive before you got to that moment where you went, yeah, this ain't working for me?
I was trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. Like, do I meet once a week? Do we meet every other week? Do we meet, like, it was the cadence.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were people that were part of the community that were just seeing the recordings. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're just seeing the recordings, then you're not actively participating in the discussion. So it was a lot of looking at it like, what can I do differently? And then finally, it's like, but more and more people are signing up for the one-on-one coaching. So I'm like, that seems to be my bread and butter.
You know, it's so funny because I think a lot of us get enamored with an idea and we keep trying to pump life into it.
Yes.
Long after the universe is telling us, you know, there's business over here.
Yes.
So if you would do it again, and I know that in this particular moment, you're like, yeah, no, I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
But if you were going to build a community separate from a coaching business because you felt like there was an opportunity there, what would you do differently? What would you change? Would it be the pricing? Would it be the marketing? What did you learn in that experience? Because if there's somebody out there who's thinking, yeah, but I could make a group work, what should they know?
I think that I would look at the pricing very carefully because it's not a one-on-one experience. It really is a community. I would have someone that is producing the topics for the community and that are assisting me on the Zoom. Depending on how many people are on there, I may not be able to run the whole thing. So there's a few different avenues I would go down if I decided to do it again.
You know, I have found that very early on, I was doing webinars and I found it was exhausting to try to teach the course and run the call. And I actually, even on my webinars, would do a recording. I would be live so I could interact before I got an assistant to help me do it because it takes more. It's harder than you think to manage both of those things.
It is. It really is. And you can, like, I look at myself as a multitasker. I have a TV news background. I went to school for broadcasting. I'm really good at juggling and multitasking, but there's some things that it would be better if all of the attention was given to one specific thing, like teaching, and then let someone else run the comments and let someone else take care of the recording and someone else line up topics. That's where I feel like a producer would be beneficial.
So when you were doing this, let me ask you, because you were charging for your one-on-one coaching and you were charging separately. Now, if they were doing coaching, they got in the group free.
Yeah, that was the original plan, but then I separated the two.
So then, as you were charging for the group and you were trying to price it, how did you kind of figure out what was a good model, or in this case, what wasn't a good model because you didn't get enough people signing up? Where did you think you needed to be pricing wise? And again, looking at that through the lens of, okay, it's been a few years. Is there an aptitude for it? But kind of what was your initial pricing thoughts?
I wanted it to be affordable for people. And I wanted it to be an easy yes. So that's kind of what went into it. And looking back, I had a LinkedIn audio weekly show that some of the group people found me on the weekly show.
They were getting the same info.
So then they're like, oh, well, I want to see more. I want to be part of this on a more regular basis.
But then there's also that group that was like, well, I can get it for free.
Right. Right. Then there's that. And that, speaking of a lot of work, that weekly show I did for over a year. And it was a job in of itself because I had a spreadsheet with guests and topics, and 1 hour of my week that was diverted just to that show, free show. So I think there's pros and cons, and that's how some people can find me. But I felt like when that was over, there was a huge weight off of my shoulders.
Yeah, I totally feel you. There are lots of things we do for exposure. There are lots of things we do for visibility. And then there's that moment where you're like, but is it really moving me toward my goal? And I think letting go of the show and focusing on your community. For any of you guys that are listening, you need to follow Deanna Russo on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
She is phenomenal. She always has good topics. There are always great conversations. And I've actually met some really great people. So I am not sorry that your group failed. I am not sorry that your weekly show is gone, because the content I get from you is so valuable in my feed.
Yeah. And I will continue creating content forever. I feel like it's the one place on LinkedIn that I can like really be myself. And there is a community of people that I have found on LinkedIn that respond and relate to anything from me posting about my mother passing away to me getting upgraded to first class. Like you can tell that people just relate and resonate with, and there's a community that forms there. So that's why I'm not closing the door completely on that community coming back at some point, because I'm like, there is a community here. I'm not going to go down that path right now.
Absolutely. Well, Deanna, this was great. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You know, it is always a treat. If you guys are interested in learning more, be sure to head over to leverageupllc.com and see what else Deanna's into and up to, because it's always interesting. And if you're looking for other conversations like this, head over to morethanafewwords.com. There you will find more than 1,000 episodes, some workbooks and white papers, and so much more. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Thanks for listening.